is no group quite like Nmixx. I've already made two videos on them, one on OO and another on the death of mix pop. OO was one of the most controversial songs in K-pop, and that was a debut. Because of this, even though they had a relatively small fan base, everyone was waiting with bated breath to see their first comeback. And there has been a lot of interest in each subsequent comeback because of where they will or seemingly will not go with that initial concept. Personally, I think the shift was from the exploration of the unknown to the exploration of the uncanny. We've talked about the unknown though, let's talk about that uncanny part. I'm just gonna say it, the girls have been stuck in a time loop since Love Me Like This, and that sense of familiarity makes their reality a bit disturbing. Like I said, I think they are in a time loop. This was honestly the realization, if you can call it that, that inspired this video. They start the videos for both Love Me Like This and Party O'Clock with the morning and getting up and or ready. It was an odd similarity in my opinion, though it felt very reminiscent of the very underrated beginning of the Sinnoh Pokemon games. Just saying, that's something I might cover another day. I think them starting these music videos in a similar way is a big deal though, because there was such a big focus on the unknown before, while this is familiar and unfamiliar because it's familiar. That is the root of the uncanny after all. I always say a classic symbol of the uncanny is like a severed hand because it is so familiar and unfamiliar. Plus, I've first studied the uncanny while reading Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. But regardless, I think there's actually a lot of symbolism signifying this change. In OO, we obviously have the scene where Kyujin runs through the door, leading to a different setting with different outfits. In Love Me Like This, we have her going through a door, but she's just walking through. We also go through a doorway to see Bae. This is a symbol of a calmer approach into any unknown territory. We also seem to approach the members in these latter videos. When they open a mailbox, we are seeing from the male's perspective, and the camera also approaches Jiwoo as she walks backwards during her rap. Our perspective is almost meant to be the meaning one can assume from these scenes. We are assigning meaning to these scenes, unlike in the former videos where there was so much going on to try and understand. There's also the scene with Bae and the ice cream. There is the upside down ice cream, and we're also consuming a treat turned upside down like it's in different states, somewhat solid and melting. There are also a lot of literary devices used in the songs themselves. I should have said this in the beginning, but I think a big part of being uncanny is being literary. You can have as crazy of lyrics as you want, but when the context of the lyrics have an interesting dynamic with the actual content is when I have the most fun reading and listening. We are so used to communicating through language that implementing a clever literary device elicits a unique response in readers and listeners. Some of the literary devices they have been using include things like anaphora. I think this is very prominent in Love Me Like This. The Love Me Like part is anaphora, which is basically the repetition of the start of a sentence or clause. We get the idea of similar but different contexts in which you can love someone. We also get internal rhymes. For example, in Party O'Clock, there is the beep beep versus keep keep part. I always find internal rhymes fun because they highlight the intentions of the lineation almost more than the end rhymes do. These internal rhymes get at the uncanny because it is seemingly familiar, as we use rhyme a lot, but its placement is somewhat different. Like I said, I think in this context that is actually very clever. My next point could easily play into the one after that, but what I want to talk about first as a literary device that is clear and substantiated is the allusions to Shakespeare. The Party O'Clock era was obviously inspired by A Midsummer Night's Dream. There's really nothing to deny it. It locks us in this explicitly literary realm, which makes room for theories about other illusions and larger discussion I really want to talk about. I'm always a slut for a good Prospero illusion. If you're unaware, in yet another Shakespeare play, The Tempest, a character named Prospero gets the opportunity to return home, but gives a speech on how he needs the audience to actually bring him there. It's such a beautiful idea how the reader makes literature what it is in the end. I talk about this all the time in class, you have no idea. And when we're repeatedly seeing the start of day, I think we have to ask if we are making this new day happen in the first place. We create the trajectory of their sounds, the life and death of mix pop, and whatever comes next. Another story I love is No Exit is a Sartre play set in hell, but the characters are stuck in a hotel room, forced to subsist in each other's presence. All they want is to leave and never see each other again, but when the door opens and they get that opportunity, no one takes it. The idea is that the unknown is actually more frightening than what they portray as literal hell. The thing about Nmix's music is that we've explored the unknown, and they do not hesitate to pass through doorways and approach things that seem backwards. Nmixx defeated the unknown, so what exactly can hell do to overcome them? I think there's a lot to talk about here, and I think there always will be when it comes to Nmixx. After all, Party O'Clock ends with Sullyoon bursting a bubble, and water is symbolic of life. I assume their next comeback will reinvent them again, although it'll be fine even if it doesn't. Their content is intriguing, and I like anything that gives me an excuse to overanalyze things. That's what my channel is all about.